Good day and welcome back to the channel for our UFC Rio Oliveira versus Gamrot post-fight recap and Draftkings pick results show. The fights are done, and it's time to see how our predictions played out. We're going fight by fight, comparing our original picks and Draftkings exposure to what actually happened. As always, please bet responsibly and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Now let's get right into it. Main event: Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. In the lightweight division, we had former champion Charles Oliveira facing off against Mateusz Gamrot. Oliveira came back strong from his previous knockout loss, showing why he's one of the most dangerous lightweights in the world. In our prediction, we slightly leaned towards Oliveira, and Draftkings exposure was 40% Oliveira, 35% Gamrot. Oliveira delivered exactly as expected, submitting Gamrot via rear naked choke in round 2 at 2 minutes and 48 seconds. This pick hit, and our heavy exposure to Oliveira paid off perfectly. On Draftkings, it elevated all my lineups with Oliveira. Co-main: Deiveson Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. In the bantamweight co-main, Figueiredo went up against Jackson. We predicted Jackson to win, parlayed the under, and even included a knockout prop, with 50% of our Draftkings lineups on Jackson and 15% on Figueiredo. However, Figueiredo won by split decision. This was a miss. Our biggest exposure of the night didn't hit. That's what I get by going against my favorite fighter. Should have had more faith. But that's a lesson to learn for next time. The Draftkings lineups with Figueiredo, honestly, helped me save from what could have been a devastating losing night. Vicente Luque versus Joel Alvarez. In the welterweight bout, we had the well-rounded Luque taking on the striking-heavy Alvarez. We leaned towards Alvarez, who had the reach and striking advantage, with 35% Draftkings exposure on Alvarez and 15% on Luque. Alvarez won by unanimous decision. Pick hit. Our exposure worked, and Alvarez dominated just like we expected. This one really kept me alive on many of my parlays and Draftkings lineups. Jonathan Diniz versus Mario Pinto. Heavyweights Diniz and Pinto clashed, and we leaned slightly on Diniz with 25% Draftkings exposure for him and 20% for Pinto. Pinto ended up winning via TKO, ground and pound, in round 2 at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. This was a miss, and it really shows how unpredictable the heavyweights can be, just as I warned, but my exposure on Pinto helped me on a few of my lineups. Ricardo Ramos versus Con Offley. In the featherweight division, we picked Ramos for speed and ground game, with 30% Draftkings exposure versus 8% for Offley. Offley submitted Ramos via rear naked choke in round 1 at 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Another miss. Ramos's advantage didn't materialize, and honestly, this is one to note for future lineups. It was a strong hit and a harsh reminder of the volatility of how MMA fights can go sideways real quick. Yeah, it hit me on a few parlays that went south. Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. This featherweight fight was very close. Our pick was Almeida with equal Draftkings exposure, 25% each. Aswell won via TKO in round 1 at 1 minute and 42 seconds. Tough miss. Both were striking threats, but Aswell's speed and power really paid off, and on my Draftkings lineups gave me a boost that kept me in the game. I was also able to parlay a win on a couple of bets with Aswell. Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. In the flyweight division, we leaned towards Carpenter with 30% exposure, while Filho had 25%. Filho submitted Carpenter via Kimura in round 1 at 4 minutes and 42 seconds. Miss Carpenter's path to victory didn't pan out here, But like I stated, this fight could have gone either way, and thankfully, I was able to hedge out a couple of parlays with Philho, and the Draftkings lineups helped me greatly. In heavyweight action, we went with Peterson, giving him about 25% exposure each. Petrino knocked out Peterson in round 3 at 26 seconds. So, yeah, that was a miss for us. It's just another reminder that heavyweight bouts can really swing either way. Because of that, and the volatility in the heavyweight division, keeping my exposure limited and equal on DraftKings actually kept me in the game and, hey, scored a 1 parlay. Bia Mesquita versus Irina Alekseeva. In women's bantamweight action, Mesquita faced off against Alekseeva. We picked Mesquita with 20% DraftKings exposure compared to 15% for Alekseeva. Mesquita submitted Alekseeva via rear naked choke in round 2 at 2 minutes and 14 seconds. That was definitely a pick hit. Limited exposure worked perfectly here, but her dominance helped me in a few parlays, and my DraftKings pick fared well with the lineups containing Mesquita. Lucas Rocha versus Stuart Nicole. This was a flyweight bout with Rocha taking on Nicole. Our pick was Rocha, with 30% DraftKings exposure compared to 25% for Nicole. Rocha won by unanimous decision. Another hit, honestly. Rocha performed just as expected. I was able to score 3 parlays with Rocha, and the DraftKings lineups containing Rocha scored well and kept me in the game. Julia Palastri versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Women's strawweight action, folks. We picked Palastri to win by decision and parlayed the over, with about 35% DraftKings exposure compared to just 10% for Kowalkiewicz. Palastri actually won by TKO in round 3 at 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Our pick hit, even though the finish came by TKO instead of a decision. But hey, that's still a win for our exposure. I also scored the over that I parlayed in single bet. And on DraftKings, Palastri did really well for all the lineups I had her in. Luan Lacerda versus Simon Oliveira. It's a bantamweight bout, Lacerda taking on Oliveira. We went with Lacerda holding about 25% DraftKings exposure, while Oliveira had 15%. Lacerda submitted Oliveira via armbar in round 2 at 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Hit. Our pick worked perfectly here. It was a great start for the day that later became, well, kinda choppy. The DraftKings lineup scored well with Lacerda. So total fights picked were 12. We got 6 correct picks. Oliveira, Alvarez, Mesquita, Rocha, Palastri, and Lacerda. And yeah, we missed on 6. Jackson, Deniz, Ramos, Almeida, Carpenter, and Peterson. The main event and several undercard hits helped offset some of the misses, but honestly, Jackson and Deniz were costly misses considering DraftKings exposure. Overall, this card really reinforced the volatility of MMA betting and the importance of hedging properly. It was a tough night, and I was able to slightly score some cash, which made it a profitable night, but, not by much. Still, a profitable night nonetheless, but it was close to being a bad night, and thank the betting gods that made it a profitable one in the end. Well, that will be all for this fight card recap show. As always, bet responsibly. Leave a comment on who you had winning and how your DraftKings lineups performed. I would love to know how you all made out. I really hope to hear great news of a profitable night for many of you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help us grow and reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. May the betting gods be with us all. Good luck, and see you next fight card. Have a great week, everyone. Be safe.